that we're looking at right here, when I first got here, this was the only plant that grew. Yeah? And you could see such distances. It was kind of beautiful. Now you can't even, now there's too many fucking bushes in the way, right? But at the time, you could just look and just see Yashipa. I'm not a Yashipa, and you could see the yurt from up here, and the social project, and you could look down into the valley and see Martha's house and everything. It was only this guy. And that was because for 60 years, they had just slashed and burned and plowed and planted. Slash, burn, plow, and planted. And the Yashipa has these massive rhizomes that basically just took over underneath. And not only was the soil poor, but the Yashipa didn't let anything grow. Yeah, it produces these phenols and tannins from its leaves that prohibit like seeds from germinating and plants from growing properly, and it also prohibits itself from decomposing very rapidly. So after time, produces just like a mat over top of the soil so that nothing can grow. My first job was just to get rid of this guy. I would machete it, clear it, and plant, and then nothing would grow. And it would come back up, and I'd machete it again, and machete it again. And in the end, the strategy was to just let it come up, let it start to uncurl its leaves, and as soon as those solar panels were about to open up, thwack, you know? So I was just basically making it pull out nutrients and then thwacking it. Pull out nutrients, thwack, until it finally got weak. And after about a year and a half of macheteing, suddenly all these other things started coming up. And they started competing with all these seeds that I had bought very expensively and got shipped from like England and Australia and Hawaii that were supposed to be these like pioneer species that would, you know, create organic matter and fix my soil for me. And so I was like, there were these little babies this big with 2 leaves or 3 leaves, and I was fighting against everything to try to keep things like this guy from taking over. And it suddenly dawned on me that I was creating a shitload of organic matter, weeding these guys to protect my 3-leafed little pathetic organic matter producing plants. And then like, you do a little bit more research, especially making some of these like house sites where you dig into the mountainside. This guy doesn't grow in the topsoil. This guy goes right through that black soil into the clay. Sometimes I've seen even like little mushroom mycelium going out of the roots and through this clay and into some of the rocks in the clay. And suddenly, like, I realized these are my miners. You know, these guys are pulling nutrients that don't exist in the topsoil down from the subsoil into their leaves. So instead of considering this guy a weed that I have to get rid of, this is my organic matter producer. This guy here, his job is just for me to prune it down to use in the gardens, in the compost, and the orchard, and it grows back. When I cut it, it grows back. Awesome. Awesome. And many of these bushes that you see now, that's their responsibility, you know. What nature does is it takes a shitty site and it first brings the guys needed to make it better, so that the next group can come and make it better, so that the next group can come and make it better, until finally in like 250 years I finally got my cloud forest again. But our job is not, because what happens with ecological succession is you get these pioneers, right? The pioneers take off growing, and like it's not just the pioneers, some other trees and plants that aren't really very happy in the soil right now probably will germinate too. They'll grow a little bit too, and then these guys get old and mature, and they level off. And they try to keep everything else from growing because they want to stay the dominant. Until finally they're too old, too sickly, or there's another disturbance, and then the next group takes off, and the whole system goes in a huge growth cycle, biomass production cycle, and then matures again. On and on and on. Our job is to not let it mature. Is to always keep it in a state of vitality and growth. And that's done by pruning it, right? Again, just like the raspberries. It's like, you cut it back, it'll grow so much better than if you allow all these old dying leaves on it. Just cut it back. So this guy here, you can see how much growth it is. It's because every once in a while we just go in and schwack it. Yeah? Schwack it, not down to the base, but schwack it knowing that there's few buds, so it'll grow even better and bushier the next time, producing even more organic the next time. Organic matter the next time. And if all of a sudden the plant does show that it's getting old, that's when it goes to let the next guys take over. Kind of like with the Yashipa. My job was not to allow the Yashipa to sit there and grow old, covering everything up. My job was to cut the Yashipa so it would be in a new stage of growth, and then cut it so it's in a new stage of growth, and then cut it again, until finally it's like, my job is done. This is the next generation. This is the next level of ecological succession. Blah, 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 blah.